we go. Perfect. All right. So our big topic today, this is not the right slide deck. We're going to try again. That's the one that I want, right? Man, I'm going to be here a little bit. I apologize. There we go. That's the right slide deck. All right, cool. We'll get there from here, you guys. Welcome to our Cub Scout Breakout. Thanks for being here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mike Volz. I'm your district commissioner. For those of you who do know me, I'm still Mike Volz. I'm still your district commissioner. I'll be here all evening. Thank you. And Dave Markle is usually our Cub Scout Roundtable commissioner. He can't be here with us for a little bit, so we're going to fill in, and hopefully he'll be back in a few months to take back over. But I really like what he's been doing for the Cub Scout breakouts. He's done a hike of the month. He's done a song, as well as, and I like doing awards. So I'm going to tell you about an award that some of you probably know about and some of you might not. And then we're going to hit our big rock topic. So there's a lot of details in here. And again, if you have clarifying questions, go ahead and let me know. But otherwise, hang on for the ride. It's going to be a lot of information. I love awards that we can guide our Cub Scouts into earning, as well as our packs and our dens. And this one I'm going to tell you about is exactly one of those things. The National Summertime Award, or National Pack Summertime Award, I think is what it's called, is a fantastic thing to do year after year after year. It is designed to encourage our packs to create a year-round program, including summer activities. It's a great way to bridge the gap between the end of one school year in late May, early June, all the way over into September, or heaven forbid, October, when your regular pack and den meetings finally pick up. The goal here is to continue to have activities, to meet, even if it's not formal den meetings and formal pack meetings, during that time when school is out of session. And we're at camps, or maybe some of our families are on vacation. That's okay. It doesn't matter. We're still doing stuff. And if people are around, they can come join us. This award applies to every single pack. It doesn't matter what your chartered organization is. It is applicable to every single registered Cub Scout. It doesn't matter what rank. We'll come back to this in a second about how you apply this to some of the younger scouts. Everybody can earn this. Everybody can participate. So what is this thing? The National Summertime Pack Award is 3 awards in one. The first part that I want to tell you about is the Pack Award. It's the blue ribbon on the far right of the screen here that you get to add to your pack flag every single year that you earn this. And the requirements are very, very simple. Right there, plan and conduct at least one pack activity during each summer month. And down at the bottom, those summer months here are June, July, and August. That's it. One activity. And then you get that filled out. It's part of your paperwork. You get to have that blue ribbon, add it to your pack flag, celebrate it as a pack, and off you go. There's also a den element to this award, and that's the little yellow ribbon that you can, for every den that earns this, they get to add that to their den flag, their den doodle, whatever way that you have some sort of a den identification. And the requirement's a little bit different. They have to have at least half of the den members, not the same for each month, but at least half of their members attend at least one event, either a pack or den activity, during each of those same summer months. So that's it. Finally, we also recognize our scouts that are able to participate in activities over the summer. And again, very, very similar. For each scout that attends at least one pack or den activity during each summer month, gets one of these pins in the top right. I'll talk about the pin colors in just a second. Summer camp counts. If you send your scouts to summer camp, that is a pack activity, that's a den activity, that's an activity that your scout participates in. Absolutely, that counts. Going on a hike counts, a bike ride, disc golf, all the simple things you can gather in a common area and just go do a thing, whatever it is, mini golf, putt-putt, anything you go do as a group, and you're having a good time, and everyone in the pack is invited to come to. That is a pack event. You'll notice den events, if you have den meetings or den activities, also count in this. Again, summer months, June, July, and August. Every single Cub Scout is eligible. I mentioned that. It's earned once per summer. So if a scout goes to 6 things, 2 in each year, or each summer month, they don't get it twice. The den and the packs earn the ribbons, and the scout earns the pins. This is the interesting part. The color that you associate with the pin is associated with the rank that they just earned. And I have a little chart here on the next slide to show you that. So for example, if a scout just finished the 2nd grade, they earned wolf, they're going into the summer months, they will earn that red pin, which is the traditional red color for the wolf rank. If they just finished tiger, they go into the summer, they're going to work on wolf, they still earn that tiger orange, right? If it was the other way around, which is kind of the way the outdoor activity award works, you are working towards the requirements for the rank that you are now working on, not the one that you just finished. If it was that way for this, you'd be handing out the dark blue ones for your Webelos like half the time. So important to keep that in mind. The pin is worn on the Cub Scouts right pocket flap. If they happen to have the outdoor activity award, you just slam it right through that and wear it with those things. Oh, by the way, the slides that I'm presenting here are going to be live and you can download, and I will go ahead and put a link to that if I can find it. Oh my gosh. Sorry, you can see all my notes here in the chat. So if you want to follow along on the slides, all the links are live. I just tested on the actual work. So there's an award application down there and more info from scouting.org. Individual awards. No, there are no additional requirements, Heather, for Webelos or anything like that. You can definitely work on things like Webelos walkabout as part of this, but this is sort of a thing all in of itself, and it's very simple, very straightforward. Take a look at the award application. I think it should make it clear. Hopefully that answers your question. This slide is from a website that no longer exists, unfortunately, but it's a really good way that to explain this, that once your scout has attained the tiger rank, they graduated 1st grade, they're working on that orange pin. That's the one you give them, even if they're given that award in September, October, November, whenever you finish all this stuff and get the paperwork in. If they attain the Webelos rank, they're working on AOL, they earn that dark blue pin. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and stop for just a second and ask if there are any other questions, and then see if Heather, if I answered your question accurately. Earn over the summer account. Everybody good? Makes sense? Waiting for a thumbs up from Ian. Thanks, buddy. All right. So I like I said, I love the National Summertime Award. I think it's a great way to create that bridge from one school year to the next and have that momentum continue for your scouts. Continuing on, Mr. Markle started a tradition that I love.
Hey, real quick, Mike.
Oh, go ahead, Ian. Yeah.
Just and to be honest, like I don't think we've done a very good job of claiming all these awards for even probably stuff that we've been accomplishing. You have the application there. Like, what is the process to submit or get this turned in, or how do we do that?
So you fill out the application. Let me see if I can actually get in there. Let's see. I open up a browser. Brian's emailing me. Okay, now I can see it. I think you submit it to the district. You submit it to.
I believe there is an email for this. It's pacifictrail.advancement@cpc.
Oh, it is advancement. Okay, yes. So you would submit it to the advancement team, the advancement chair. Thank you, Pete. I think you're right. Man, I can't click on the. Oh, we'll just do that. It didn't work. I can't click on something while I'm presenting. Oh my gosh. Yes. If there are other questions, I can answer that offline. I believe you submit this to the advancement team, and I don't have the PDF in front of me. I'm sorry, but it's usually pretty darn straightforward. And it's one of those things of once you plan it, and Ian, you've been through this a few times where if you have a few events throughout each month, you're basically there, right? It's not a huge insurmountable goal. So, all right. Other questions? Go ahead and move to the next thing. All right. So Mr. Markle established a great tradition that I really like of doing a hike of the month. And I don't know if he presented this one to you. It's kind of a obvious one for our area, but I wanted to present it just in case he didn't. And it actually comes from a University of Scouting presentation I did years and years ago from putting the outing in scouting. And it was basically the idea of, look, you can go on a hike and tie all these things together into advancements. This kind of speaks to Heather's question a little bit of doing something during the summer and tying it together, or even in this case, the fall or the spring and the shoulder seasons, tying it together so that your den leaders have one less thing to worry about and work on. So I want to tell you about Tryon Creek State Park. It is probably about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on traffic, away from our general area over there. I've got a map here, actually. I'll show you. Off of Twilliger Boulevard, it's Portland proper. It's just north of Lake Oswego, near Lewis and Clark College, if you're familiar with that. And the plan is as follows. And I'll tell you why the plan is important in just a few minutes. We're going to meet at the Nature Center. That's going to be our gathering activity. Let the scouts explore, not break anything, go with their guardian, their parents, grandparents, whoever brings them. And then when you have everybody and everybody's had a chance to explore the Nature Center, we pull everybody out to the picnic area that's just to the north of it's a great little spot to stop and have a discussion with a whole gaggle of Cub Scouts. Gaggle everybody, you're going to do the outdoor code, recite it together, leave no trace principles, talk about those things, have everyone show their 6 essentials that they brought in their day pack, right? Yes, of course. And if they have their whittling chip, they can show their pocket knife. Woo! And then we briefly discuss the buddy system, because we always use the buddy system. Who's your buddy? No, 3 is not a buddy. 4 is not a buddy. 2 is a buddy. That's good, right? Those things. And then your tiger, wolf, and bear den can go on a short hike. I think most tigers can handle a 1 mile hike. And I've got a good suggestion for you on the map in just a second. The tigers need to do a little plant animal identification. The bears do a little nature observation, identify animal signs. Your Weebelow's den has more to do, and we'll get to this in just a second. They have a 3 mile hike to go on. So one thing to keep in mind when you do this is if you have siblings in your pack between 2 dens, one of them is a Weebelow's, one of them is younger, there's a logistical challenge potentially where one will be gone for a few hours and one will be done in less time for sure, but we'll come back to that in a second. So again, this is the map of Tryon Creek State Park. I will say, if you go in the summertime, it's really busy, so get there when they open the gates. That'll help you actually get a parking spot. It's really easy to get to, good access, and the parking is pretty easy. It just fills up fast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to overlay a 1.1 mile hike for our younger scouts. It looks like this. Starts at the Nature Center. You can go either way, doesn't matter. It's exactly 1.1 miles, and pretty much all of our tigers, wolves, and bears, I think, can handle this. There's no reason to rush. Enjoy the time there at Tryon. It's a beautiful place to be and enjoy and see things, and it's usually pretty well shaded, especially in this area. Now, your Weebelow scouts, we'll talk about in a second, they have to actually plan their own hike, but I want to suggest, oops, wrong button. I can do this, guys. Okay. Something that looks like this. This is a route that comes from a 4 mile hike Portland group. So this is actually 3.9 miles. And you could actually probably get it down to 3 by cutting across this route here or something and cut off some of this extra zone if you want to. Again, something that your Weebelow scouts will want to decide for themselves. How far do they want to go? So what are we going to do with our scouts while we're there? If you're a tiger den leader, you're going to do the 6 essentials. We just talked about them. You're going to do the outdoor code. Your scouts need to listen to somebody while they recite it. You're going to go for that short hike. You're going to look for 3 different kinds of plants, animals, or signs. Could be, hey, look, there's acorns. Could have been a squirrel that ate the acorns on that stump, something like that. Hey, look, there's a squirrel tracks or whatever it was. Doesn't matter. It could be anything. And find 2 different types of plants that grow in your area. Hey, look, there's a Douglas fir and there's a sword fern. Done. Yay. And then write those names in your tiger handbook. And you just visited Nature Center. You have finished Tigers in the Wild. Your wolf den leader is going to be excited because Paws in the Path, similar. 6 essentials, buddy system. You covered that. And then at some point before the tigers go out, sorry, the wolves go out, check to make sure they're wearing appropriate clothing, right? That's pretty easy. Everybody's got a jacket, a hat, or whatever it is, umbrella. Outdoor code, we already recited. 1 mile hike, and they're supposed to watch and record 2 interesting things they've never seen before. How broad could it possibly be, right? I think I've got these requirements correct. These were pulled from a little while ago, by the way. So if they changed, I apologize. You have finished Paws on the Path. your bears, fur, feather, and ferns. 1 mile hike, 6 signs that animals, birds, insects, plants, reptiles are living nearby, whatever. That's easy to find those things. You visit a nature center, you observe wildlife from a distance. Hey, look, a squirrel, describe what you saw. There are a couple of optional things, 1 or 2 that you get to choose from. I like the one of just bringing a magnifying glass and then just, here, look, a leaf. What do you see? Or a drop of water or anything. Pick something that's interesting. Maybe not scat on the trail. And you finished fur, feather, and ferns. Yay. Your Webelos den leader needs a little more lead time because they need to actually plan their hike. Most Webelos den leaders, I think, say, here are a few options. Which one would you like? Nothing wrong with that. That's planning. The Webelo scouts get to assemble their first aid kit. Everybody come in, show me your first aid kit, Band-Aids, bubble gum, perfect. Outdoor code. Now they're supposed to recite it from memory. So you could do something like having the Webelo scouts lead everyone else in the outdoor code if you're feeling confident. It can be tough for them to recite the outdoor code from memory. With your Webelos den, hike those 3 miles. And then in that, you're supposed to have basically a snack, a meal, lunch, something like that. And then clean up after yourself, leave no trace principles. And then along the way, there are a couple of options here as well to do 1 or 2 things. I like the idea of, here's a picture of poison oak. Let's keep an eye out for that. Here's a picture of a rattlesnake. Yes, rattlesnake's venomous, not poisonous, I know. But these are things that we could pretty easily, even on your phone, create a little thing of make sure everyone knows what poison oak looks like. That's important in this part of the world, right? And you have finished Webelo's walkabout. This is just one way to tie all these things together. And this can be done in a lot of different places. THPRD has a very similar location in Beaverton off 160th. That's you're able to do almost all these same things. And there's other places too, but this is one of my favorites. I took my den to Tryon and we had a great time. So I'll go ahead and pause and see if anybody has any questions about that. I know that's a lot, but anybody been to Tryon recently? Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, Mike, I was going to say we went as a pack a year or 2 back, and you were right on about the parking and getting there early. That was the only rub with Tryon Creek. It's popular for a reason.
Yeah, carpooling is a good option, right? Ride share. All right.
I was going to share. So we have a parent volunteer who about midway through last year put together sort of a hiking club, and we have been doing monthly hikes. We've hit Tryon, we've hit just you name it, we've probably hiked it. And it is fantastic to get the scouts out, to go over the leave no trace, to go over the outdoor code, to go over the 6 essentials. Everybody's got them every time, and it really the once per month has been great. We started off with like 3 scouts attending, and like our last one, I think we had second to last one, I think we had 18. So it's highly recommend.
That is awesome. Now, for all of you who aren't familiar, Pack 195 has a hiking coordinator. Is that the title, Joe? Yeah, and it's awesome. You can do that. My pack had a pack seamstress for a while. It was great. People loved it. So make things up as needed, and it can actually add to your program. And 195's got a great example of this, really fostering the hiking program. All right, Pete, if you're ready, all warmed up, it is time for a song of the month, buddy.
Okay. I want to sing my favorite Cub Scout song, which is Cub Scout Spirit. Some of you have probably heard it before because it's a popular one. But if you haven't, then you can use this and go sing it at your pack meeting. Feel free to sing along, but probably mute yourself because otherwise it'll be all out of sync and annoying. Okay, so it goes. I've got that Cub Scout spirit up in my head, up in my head, up in my head. I've got that Cub Scout spirit up in my head to stay. I've got that Cub Scout spirit down in my feet, down in my feet, down in my feet. I've got that Cub Scout spirit down in my feet to stay. I've got that Cub Scout spirit deep in my heart, deep in my heart, deep in my heart. I've got that Cub Scout spirit deep in my heart to stay. and you can do more verses, but I'm only going to do 3 verses for you. And it's awesome because it's super simple and easy for the Cub Scouts to start singing along as you go. And you could do really exaggerated expressions with each one, and the Cub Scouts get really into that. And it's easy to remember, which is why it's my go-to Cub Scout song. So please make use of it. Every Cub Scout meeting or activity should have a song. That's my firm opinion.
I heartily agree with Pete. Every Cub Scout thing should have a song of some kind. And Pete, if you told me that I could have Googled Cub Scout Spirit beforehand and had this ready to go, but here you go. I found the lyrics, and like Pete did, you don't have to have them in just the right order, but always start with the head. So there you go. Thank you, Pete. Greatly appreciated.
You got
All right. He volunteered, folks. All right. So our big rock topic for our Cub Scouts today is summer camp. I've got a lot of stuff. I've been talking to people, Pete included, and hopefully this is going to help you have a great experience at summer camp. Let this air out. Anybody have any questions before we dig in? Everybody's good? All right. Okay, so why summer camp? Let's start there. Summer camp is a tradition as old as scouting. If you know the story of how scouting started, it basically started with summer camp. Robert Baden-Powell wrote this book. In today's terms, it went viral. He went off to war, came back. People everywhere thought it was fantastic, and he kind of scratched his head and, well, let's get some young men and teenagers together and go off to this place called Brownsea Island off the south coast of England and go camping for a week. They had summer camp. That was the thesis, the very beginning of scouting as we know it today as a worldwide movement. Today, it is often the highlight of the year for our Cub Scouts. There are things that our scouts get to do at summer camps, and you'll see a lot of them here, that they don't get to do throughout the rest of the year. It is a unique experience. It is something that they don't get to see a lot of this stuff all the time. You can't go shoot archery in your backyard necessarily, or at the pack meeting. You get to do that at summer camp, or BB guns, or build things, or ride a horse, for crying out loud. Our council has 2 fantastic camps we're going to talk about. Butte Creek Scout Ranch and Camp Baldwin is hosting what we call base camp. If you see base acronymed out, it looks funny. It's not actually an acronym, so I just call it base camp. And as Pete told me, it's base camp where you stay first to go on an adventure, go out and do the next thing. So I find it a little bit irritating that they put the dots in, but whatever. So I'm just going to call it base camp like that. For those of you who are unfamiliar, it's kind of a shorter version of what our scouts are going to experience as Scouts BSA troop members at Scouts BSA summer camp. So things like Camp Merriweather, Pioneer, the full meal deal at Baldwin, and others like that. So it's really an on-ramp. We'll talk about that, age appropriate and building. Yes, no base jumping, Joe. not at Cub Scout summer camp, no. And I want to take a moment to note, I usually ask our DE to plug his ears, but he has to listen, so I'll just be okay, that there is no specific requirement for a Cub Scout to attend a summer camp in the council that they are registered. And I have 2 examples for how this might apply. The first is if you have, say, Billy Cub Scout or Tammy Cub Scout in your pack, and they're going to go visit grandma and grandpa like all summer, let's just say all July and most of August in Wyoming, and they can't attend summer camp with their pack or their den. They can go to summer camp in Wyoming, ideally with grandma or grandpa or whoever they're with, right? That's okay. The logistical challenge for them is to find the summer camp, get registered, and all those things. But we would rather see the scout go to camp somewhere than not go to camp at all. That's the message for that one. The other one, and this is where I've actually had experience with, is if another Cub Scout from another district comes in and is visiting our area and is with your pack, for you have friends or family, and I'll give you an example in a second, they can come to summer camp with us to Butte Creek or to base camp at Baldwin. The experience I have with this is that my oldest son's den had a scout where the scouts cousin lived up in University Place. It's just in, oh my gosh, what council? I'm blanking. Pacific Harbors Council up north, just south of Tacoma. And they really didn't have a Cub Scout camp program per se. And so he came down every year and came to summer camp with us. We went to Cub World, we went to Butte Creek, we went to Camp Clark, and we had a blast every year. There's nothing wrong with that. So it can go either way. And the thing that I really want to infuse here is we'd rather have a scout go to camp somewhere than to not go at all. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, and I marked it in the chat, but we do want to know if you're going to camp at a council.
Yes.
It's totally fine. But what we want to know at the district and council level, because we kind of try to track how many of our Cub Scouts are camping, because it helps us understand a few things about how membership works and retention and all that stuff.
Absolutely. Yes. All right. With that out of the way, I want to start by talking about Butte Creek, which is an absolutely awesome camp. If you've never been there, think northeast of Salem, just outside of Scotts Mills. The way to describe this is you drive to the crossroads of no and where, and you keep going for a little while. All the sessions this year are 4 days, 3 nights, and I have 4 days as a stretch, guys. I have an example from last year of the schedule. It's not nearly as intense as it sounds, okay? Camp runs from early July through mid-August, 11 total sessions. I'll show you the sessions in just a minute. And all those sessions are either Saturday through Tuesday or Wednesday through Saturday. For me personally, if I were to choose, if I were not registered yet and a den's come in together and say we want to go to camp, I, as a Monday through Friday office worker, very much prefer the session that ends on Saturday so that I can come home, take a shower, and rest on Sunday before going back to work on Monday. When I end on Tuesday, then I'm back to work on Wednesday, and it's just like, oh, what's happened? My personal experience, take it for what it's worth. Butte Creek is appropriate for all Cub Scouts. Yes, David, I'll get to that in just a second. Actually, I have a spreadsheet to show you. I think I have it loaded. Yeah, David, hold that thought. We'll be there in just a moment. It's appropriate for all Cub Scouts. And what I was told about a week ago when I talked with Jennifer Ramirez about this is initially they were going to say, if you have a Cub Scout who as of June registered as a Lion, they're starting kindergarten in September, they're not quite old enough for it. They've gone back on that. They're going to make it work. The caveat is the parent should kind of judge whether they think the scout is ready to go to an overnight camp. But there are a lot of things, I'll tell you about a few of them that they're working on to help make the camp more accessible, even for those really young scouts, to get them into camp. The theme at Butte Creek is the Old West and Cowboy Adventures, as I think it's been since time immemorial. I know this is a little bit mixed up, but the leader guides, Jennifer tells me, should be published by early March. And I'll come back around to this for a couple other points. Chris Bartel, that's the right one, is working, basically he's creating leader guides on a notion.io site for this summer, and that's going to be munged into a PDF document that will then be published also. So you'll have a web version, you'll have a PDF version. Hopefully we'll have both of those in March, and keep an eye out for those to be updated. And I have some links here towards the end for those resources. Most importantly, and this is what Jennifer Ramirez tells me, Pete, you can chime in on if there's a similar plan for base camp at Baldwin, please. They're doing a pre-camp leader meeting via Zoom early June. Think June 1st, 2nd, maybe 3rd. I think probably a Thursday or a Friday. And that's kind of a big one to get all the information you need. And then as time progresses through that summer camp season, they'll have weekly meetings where you can chime in maybe a week before you go to camp and get all the updates that you need. So you'll have multiple meetings to ask questions, get updated information, and have that. I don't have any links to those or information beyond the fact that they're planning to do this. Pete, is this the case for Baldwin as well, for base camp?
Yes, every camp has one. It might be the case that the Baldwin and base camp Scouts PSA and Weebles are mixed together.
Okay. Because some of it is location specific for sure. Yeah. So keep an eye out for those. And if you put your name on the email list of I want information about camps, they will tell you when these are coming up, I hope. And if they don't, ping me and I'll put you in touch with Jennifer Ramirez and or Pete. More information, Scouts and Adults sleep in mini DACs. I'll have pictures in just a second. My general recommendation, I've got this 3 or 4 times, is if you have a tent, throw it in the car just in case. And then I'll expound on that a little bit later. They did staggered check-ins last year. It worked really well. It's going to happen again. You will see that in the schedule I'm going to show you in just a moment. Expect a phone call from the staff roughly a week beforehand, not the Zoom call. It'll be a different phone call specific to your unit and your reservation on when they want you to show up. They don't worry about schlepping all of your luggage to your campsites. They will have wagons that are usually either pulled by the ranger's truck or a tractor, which is cool. And they'll just deliver everything to your campsite and you don't have to carry it all over creation. All the campsites at Butte Creek have a propane fire pit because the place happens to be very flammable. Please don't bring firewood. That is the request. We've proven it's very flammable. So please don't bring firewood. However, you will have that opportunity to have in-camp time with a propane fire pit. Yes, you can bring s'mores fixings and have a little time in camp with your scouts. If you forget s'mores fixings, they'll have it at the store, at the trading post for sure. But feel free to bring them. Jennifer tells me the evening of day 2, what she calls day 2. Pete's days are different for base camp, but for her, day 2 is that second day of day 4. They'll have some really good time for in-camp s'mores type stuff. Last year at Butte, they had a quiet table in the trading post that was focused on scouts that needed some quiet time it gets a little crazy, some time to focus. And I think it was mostly drawing. I don't know if it was crayons or other things, but it worked really well, was really well received. So they're going to do that again, and they're going to actually double down on that. And they want to do a craft table, something very, very similar in the dining hall. So look forward to that. And Jennifer said that just worked really, really well for the scouts. It just needed a moment, needed some quiet time, and it was really a good thing. Activities as usual include horseback riding, fishing, BB guns, panning for gold, archery, cowboy campfires. There's carpentry. There's visiting the animals in the barn and all that stuff. All the good things. Nature. It's a palooza of events. And new for 2023, I'm so excited about this. My good friends Butch Istook and Colleen Louie are creating an escape room for Butte Creek. So look forward to that. I have no idea if it's just scouts and adults together, if the adults can gather together and do it themselves. I don't know. You'll have to wait and see. But they did, if you're not familiar, if you went to University of Scouting and did the escape room, that was Butch Istook, who Joe's pumped. I am too, man. Joe and Colleen are some of my favorite people, and they love escape rooms, and they're doing this. They're volunteers. They're doing this because they want to. So it's so cool. Pete, you should totally do an escape room at Baldwin, buddy.
I just to clear it up right now, I'm actually not at Baldwin this summer.
What? You're not?
No, I'm not.
When did that happen?
That happened a few months ago.
Oh my gosh.
And we talked about it at a Key3 meeting. But
I totally missed it. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Shoom. Okay. Moving on. Peace on at Baldwin this summer. Okay. So that's some cool stuff happening at Butte Creek. A couple pictures to show you. These are kind of stock photos from Butte Creek. Over here on the far right are the mini DACs. Be warned that there's a little bit less shade than there was a few years ago, but that's okay. They've got shelters. Mini DACs are fine. By the evening, they cool down. Top of the middle there is Scotty DiPaolo working with a rider and a horse, and below that is their saddle barn. And then you have on the left side the aerial view from a drone of Main Street, which is just cool. I think they've taken the menu down that has beans with every meal. I love that. It's one of my favorites. BB gun range, Scotty on a horse doing a presentation. I think that was the evening thing, and a few that I took also. These are from back in 2018. Oops, sorry. There we go. Jennifer tells me they're not going to know what critters they're going to have in the barn until, a few weeks before they actually start camp, but they always have critters in the barn. Lower left is the archery range. Upper right is panning for gold, which is a tradition at Butte Creek. My youngest, they're holding, I don't know what he's holding in the middle. And then they had this whole thing of a wash bin and the ringer that for some reason Cub Scouts just absolutely loved back in 2018. That's the lower right. So these are things you can expect. It is a great camp. I mentioned it's 4 days, 3 nights, which is a little bit of a stretch. You'll see that arrival and check-in is going to be, and again, this is last year's 2022 schedule. It might change a little bit, but it's probably going to be representative of what you can expect. arrival's going to be, 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock time frame. You probably have a 15 to 20 minute window of, we want you to arrive about now, and they will get you checked in and get you to your site. They got fire drills, camp tour, adult leader meetings, all that stuff. One of the things I want to point out to you, and I didn't ask Jennifer about this, I don't see anything about an evening meal here. I don't know if the expectation is that you bring a meal with you or you come already fed. Chime in if you know, if you were there last year, feel free. And all
already fed.
Come already fed. Thanks, Samantha.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you show up at 3:30 p.m., that's pretty early supper.
Well, so the people that show up at 3:30 will have camp time, and they can actually eat their sack lunches in their camp.
There you go.
And I had a check-in time at 6 o'clock last night, so we all met in the parking lot at 5:30, ate lunch, and then ate dinner, and then we did our check-in.
Right. Oh, and do note on the Butte Creek schedule here, dinner is the noon meal, supper is the evening meal. It's just how they do it at Butte Creek. Also, there is a really great city park in Scotts Mills. It's a great place to have everyone drive to collect everyone, stop and have a snack or a meal, and then camp is about 15 minutes from that. It's on First Street in Scotts Mills. It's pretty easy to find if you Google it. Highly recommended you land there first, especially if you have a big group. If you're taking 12 to 18 and you've got 22 cars somehow, that happens, guys. The primary program for Butte Creek is day 2 and day 3. You've got a lot of rotations of stations. You've got meals and root beer special at the evening there with a Hollapalooza. Day 3 ends with a campfire and homestead time. And then basically day 4 is quick breakfast, quick scout zone flag, and you're on your way. I promise you will be home for lunch on day 4, unless you choose to not go home. So that's what you can expect, or something very, very similar to it. The sessions, and I'll go ahead, since I think it was David that mentioned that some of the sessions are booked. Where did it go? Here we go. The sessions are here. You can refer back to that if you want to. And there's a link there. Basically, this is directly from Jennifer Ramirez. Their maximum is about 120. So the session 3, session 4 is full. Pardon me, my goodness. Session 6 is full, session 8 is full. However, a lot of the other ones have lots of space. The last one is over half empty. So there's lots of time available, which is great. Feel free to look at this if you want to capture that. I don't have this available on the Google Drive because it's not my information to give out necessarily. And then for those of you who are anticipating going to Baldwin, Pete, do you know how many they can handle at base camp? Because 147 seems like a lot of youth.
It's more than Butte Creek, but I don't know if they're willing to fill up the campsites or not.
Okay.
I don't know. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I will say the first 2 sessions there's plenty of room, especially if 147 is somewhere near the maximum or even below it. There's lots of space at Baldwin Base Camp. So, and then of course the fees and things here. So we'll come back to that in just a minute. I have a map of camp. This is the old time map with the old campsites here on the left. It hasn't changed that much. Yes, it burned. Yes, they built all new campsites. It's basically in the same spot. You just don't have to hike up the hill all the way like you used to if you were in Setting Sun or whatever it was. There are a couple of campsites over here near Frontier Field that I hear are nice sites. There's a little bit more shade. Ian, I think your pack was there last year, if I remember correctly, but there's a little bit
more shade, but more walking. So
exactly. Yes, you have to walk all the way across Frontier Field to go get breakfast, right?
I personally worked on the Yellow Rose campsite.
Yellow Rose was super nice, but oh my goodness, that walk.
There you go. It's not nearly as bad as it was getting to the top of the hill and back in previous years. So, it's all good. We go with what we got. And you can see one of the things to keep in mind about Butte Creek, if you can see the map, this is 2 counties and 3 watersheds, folks. It's a big camp. And when your scouts go across the bridge here to go see the horses, go do fishing, go do the nature, you're over there for a couple hours usually, right? And doing a rotation on that side of the pond. You're in Multnomah County now, and then you walk back across the bridge, and and you're back in Marion County. Maybe it's Clackamas County. I think you're in Clackamas County, not Multnomah. And again, 3 watersheds. It's wild. So anyway, the cost up there is where it's at. That's to the best of my knowledge. I have no idea about the additional fees that came out. I was not informed about those things. I've got a Google link to get you there. And then there's a whole chart, and it's also on Jennifer's spreadsheet of if you bring X number, oh, I closed, no, I didn't. X number of scouts, you get Y number of adults for free. This is a good summary of that right here. You still have to abide by all the youth protection, 2 deep leadership, all those things. So it's one free adult. You still got to bring somebody else unless it's just you and your own kid, I think. And then you'll get bolted up with somebody else. So please keep that in mind. This is just a financially, how many adults do you get for free? Hopefully that's clear. Okay, any questions on Butte Creek real quick before I move on? Okay. Next one.
Hey, Mike, one quick thing I was going to say about Butte Creek is we've had a couple of the new families like kind of ask about, the whole deal with summer camp. And, I've realized that like I've needed to assure some of the families that like may not even be, much campers at all, that like, that this is an overnight camp that's like totally doable for all ages.
Absolutely.
Because like one family came up and said like, oh, but I thought these were going to be like day camps because my kid's in first grade or whatever. So I've been trying to push the message that like it's definitely summer camp, but it's doable for even young elementary school kids. So
yeah, absolutely true. I think the one challenge might be if you have a scout going into kindergarten and knowing that scout and having the parent decide whether or not they're ready for that is important. And having a parent there, I mean, they have to be there. There has to be a partner with a lion and a tiger, right? And having those people there and say, hey, look, we're going to take a break for a while. That's okay, right? There's nothing wrong with that. The mini DACs, as Ian attests to, are much easier to make this work as opposed to a tent. You don't have to cook for yourself. It's a great way to get started. So thanks for chiming in, Ian. I'm going to transition to Camp Baldwin, base camp. Oh, was there somebody else?
I had a quick question.
Spencer.
Do you have to bring a tent or like just in case there's no cabins available, like an adult might have to be in a tent?
So you don't have to, but I do recommend it if you have one. And I'll get to that in a second. My philosophy when I go to summer camp, whether it's a Scouts BSA camp or Cub Scout camp, is I'm going to throw in some extra gear just in case, because you never know. And it has come in handy more often than not. So I would say, Spencer, if you're going with a group, say your pack is going or 1 or 2 dens, get those adults together and say, hey, who has a couple extra tents? Make sure you have 2 or 3 just in case. If it's really a busy, full session, there might be an issue with, somebody's not getting along. They have to have their own DAC or whatever. Does that make sense? Oh, Spencer's muted again.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Yeah, okay. And I'll come back around to this a little bit. Go ahead, Joe.
And I was going to ask, do we know if they're going to offer the nap badge again?
Sorry, the nap badge?
Yeah, the nap badge. How to nap safely.
Oh, nap safely. I have no
idea.
idea.
Nap safely. It sounds kind of like a joke, but it's very serious.
Oh, I've sat through it. It's hilarious. I did it at Camp Clark, actually. I don't know. I know that there are adult awards. We'll talk about those in just a second. Nap safely is hilarious. Did they do it at Butte last year, Joe?
I got it. It's
cool.
Amazing.
Okay.
It covers 2 deep leadership and all sorts of really reasonable stuff. Like,
I would hope so. I don't know for sure. I could ask Jennifer and get back to her, or you could. It is a bit of a tradition at summer camp to have the nap safely badge offered. So I very much hope so. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead. Oh, older scout got it at Meriwether. That's awesome. All right, I'm going to blaze forward because I got stuff to get through and we're 45 minutes in here. Camp Baldwin, where Pete won't be this summer, located near basically split Mount Hood, Dufur, draw a line that's halfway between. It's about 2.5 hours from Beaverton if there's a little bit of traffic. It's a bit of a drive. Again, all these sessions are 4-day, 3-night with kind of a similar, there's a little bit more time in camp, but not very much. And you'll see a schedule from Pete here from last year as an example. And there's only 3 sessions. They're early July to mid-July. I think you saw them on the spreadsheet real quick over there. This is appropriate for scouts who have finished Bear, are starting Webelos, or have finished Webelos and are starting Arrow of Light. If they finished Arrow of Light, they should be going to camp with their troop, right? Yes, thank you. If they haven't finished Bear yet, they're probably not quite ready. Or if they're not finished, haven't finished 3rd grade, right? That's the tradition. The theme, as mentioned, is base camp. It is a place that you start to go on an adventure. And interestingly, with Baldwin, this is a new thing for last year, having Cub Scouts at Camp Baldwin. There is a waterfront, there are boats, there is swimming, a lot of those things. There are horse rides. There are, instead of BB guns, they have CO2 powered air rifles, archery, and because they're older, they get to bring in the compound bows, which is awesome. The idea here, and Pete tells me, is to add pizzazz to the Cub Scout program, and it really does. It's that next step up beyond what Butte Creek can offer, because we need to make sure that the younger scouts have age-appropriate things. A few more things to note. Scouts and adults typically sleep in either mini decks or the canvas tents, the big green tents. They still have some of those at Baldwin. You could be in a site with one or the other usually. Typically is 2 people per each one. I have experienced personally about 35 years ago, 3 scouts in one of those green canvas tents. And what really ends up happening is a yard sale of stuff everywhere. I don't recommend it. And again, to speak to Spencer's point, a recommendation is to bring a tent if you have one, just in case. There's plenty of space at Baldwin to set up a tent if you need it. If you've never been to Baldwin, prepare yourself for a little of dust. It gets dusty there. And I got a few pictures here to show you. And one thing from one of the volunteers, one of my good friends, was there for the very first session last year. And one of the things he wanted me to pass on to everybody is swim tests are a thing. It's not something that we have done in the past for Cub Scout camps, but now that there's a waterfront, one of the first things they'll have you do is do the swim test. They have boats. It's the whole deal. The entire waterfront is available. But swim tests are tough for Cub Scouts, even if they're working on Webelos or Arrow of Light. This is a lake. The lake is cold. The lake is, it's lake water. It's not a swimming pool. It's dark. You can't see the bottom. You probably can't touch the bottom if you're a Cub Scout, right? If you bring a group of Cub Scouts, please focus on encouraging a positive attitude in your Cub Scouts of, we're going to try this. We're going to see if it works. We might not succeed. We might not pass, but we're going to try. And the same thing for the adults. Like, I am not the best swimmer in the world, right? But if I were to go with a group of Cub Scouts, I'd give it my best. And along those lines, you have to expect that a fair number of your Cub Scouts probably won't pass the swim test in a cold lake for the first time. Make sure some of your adults pass the swim test, so then they can take your Cub Scouts out in a rowboat, because if your Cub Scout is a non-swimmer, they can still go out on a boat, a rowboat in particular, with a swimmer. And then 2 deep leadership is, you can see everyone in the lake, you have buddy boats, stuff like that. They'll learn all about that. Positive attitude is important. Knowing going into it that you're going to do this is important, and to prepare your scouts, because it's just very different than Butte Creek. There's no swimming at Butte Creek. So hopefully that's clear. That should be in the leader guide this year. I know that last year it was just not really super clear that, well, we're going to jump on the lake right now and do a swim test. You're going to try to swim 100 yards. Oh, also, if you're planning on doing Aquanaut, the adventure, either Webelos or Arrow of Light, with your scouts, one of the requirements is, and I quote, attempt the BSA swim test. This is do your best Cub Scouts, right? Walking out of the dock, looking at the water, putting a toe in and saying, yeah, none for me, thanks very much, is an attempt. Check it off. It's done. It's good. That builds some character. Maybe next time they'll try. Maybe they want to jump in and give it a go and they didn't pass. That's okay. That's attempting. Some of them might pass. You never know. But it is a cold lake. It is a dark lake, but it's a good experience for them. Just that positive thing. Food was a bit of a thing last year. Pete can attest to this a little bit. And he tells me that the plan has been to have your, to try to word this in this slide, but it's a little challenging. For your group in your campsite to cook one of each meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, in the campsite during your time there. Hope I got that right, Pete. Give me a thumbs up if I did. Is he still here? Oh, he may have had to jump out. That's what I'm told is the goal. And it's a good experience for your youth and your adult leaders to take what you've got, throw it together, and they're going to provide all the cooking gear. They're going to bring you all the food. All you got to do is make it. Last year, they had some logistical issues. Sometimes you might not always get everything that you expect. Roll with it. See what happens. It's going to be fun. And then a lot of the remainder of the meals will be delivered to you in a central picnic area. I have a picture of it in just a second. So expect that to be a thing. Some of them will be delivered to you in a picnic format. Some of them will be cooked in camp. And which one those are may change between now and when you get to camp. Again, I hope that leader guides are available for you in March. Keep an eye on that leader portal. And I got some photos for you. This is my oldest. This is at NYLT.
Hey, Mike, real quick. I was going to say
ahead.
for the cooking part. So we did it last year. We were actually even in the first session. So kind of tip of the spear.
Oh,
I guess.
you were there too for that. Yeah.
Yeah. But even then, like logistics were pretty good, and doing the cooking, which is not the first, like it's not the first meals. It's like they set it up so like the cooking are kind of like the middle set of meals for the whole day. But that was like a key differentiator for the whole base camp versus Butte Creek, the idea that the kids actually are doing some of the cooking. And so, you know, we have the kind of adults directing and kids stirring and stuff like that. But that by itself is like a major difference. And it's not
absolutely
meals,
agreed.
it's some.
Yeah.
So it's
and that's a good thing you can tie into doing cast iron chef with your scouts too. Probably not something you can necessarily complete at summer camp, but to get them interested in thinking about cooking, right? And to get those juices flowing, literally. If you will. All right. Again, this is my son, David. He went to NYLT this past summer that was at Camp Baldwin. And this is overlooking Lake Hennel, I think is how it's pronounced. This is the south side of the lake looking northwest. This is what you're going to experience at Baldwin. It didn't burn recently is what I'm saying. It's a mixed pine and fir forest with a lot of scrub, some grass here and there, but a lot of dirt. Prepare for dust. The lake isn't huge, but it's there, and you can fish in it, you can swim in it, the whole bit. And if you go to the right of that and turn around, this is the sort of picnic area where we were served a meal. I think this is where most of the meals will be served if it's a common area. Ian, correct me if I'm wrong. Is this where you guys had?
That's right.
Yep. Okay. And they basically line things up in this kind of it's almost a shack looking thing where they have the servers inside and you get to grab a plate and walk along each side. Or one side, hand washing stations, picnic tables. It's a great little spot. And that's where they do a lot of their group things. So that's kind of what to expect. Again, take a look at the ground here on the photo. It's dirt. It's a little dusty. If you bring a lot of Cub Scouts that don't know how to pick up their feet correctly as they're walking, it's going to get dusty. So my son actually has a shirt, Got Dust, a la Got Milk, and it's one of his favorites. Example schedule for Baldwin. This again is from 2022, subject to change, but it gives you an idea of what to expect. Arrival between noon and 4. Again, I would expect to be issued a time. Ian, were you issued a time slot to arrive last year?
I think so. I can't remember.
You don't remember? I would expect that because that's a long opening period if they don't have people staggered in. Although I can't guarantee it, you know. And then they have dinner. So dinner is the evening meal at Baldwin. I know it's a thing. Flag Chapel, there's going to be tucked in here somewhere, probably swim tests on that evening of the arrival day. Notice that in his calendar here, it's arrival day, day 1, day 2, and departure day, which is a little confusing. We had an arrival time last year, says William. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yes. And you basically do go directly to the swim test. Sometimes they'll take you to your campsite. You'll drop your stuff off and then you're off to your swim test. That's how it happens at Scouts BSA troop summer camps. You are expecting to essentially immediately jump in the water and prove that you can swim. Be prepared for that. So thank you for chiming in on that. I appreciate that. And then you end up with bunk time, lights out, and you're on your way. The core program time is day 1 and day 2 here. Lots of rotations, lots of things going on. There's an outbound at the second part of the first major program day. I'm told the outbounds are awesome and that the scouts get to select what they do. Ian, can you comment on the outbounds at all from when you were there? Do you remember anything?
I don't remember actually if our scouts actually did the outbound on that one.
Okay. I think it is optional, but there are a number of options. You'll probably hear about that and see it in the leader guide. It's one of the things that does differentiate Baldwin base camp from Butte Creek. There's a little bit more leeway and decision making given to the scouts, what they want to do. And then there's also a sky viewing thing at the end of the day here as well. But again, rotations for the second program day. And then they have a camp-wide relay race, which I won't ask Ian if he remembers, because apparently it's all foggy in Ian's brain this evening, which is fine. It's okay. And then again, departure day is quick wake up, quick breakfast, and you're on your way. And you're literally, I mean, if you're departing at 9:30, you're home for lunch, even if you're going to Banks, Vernonia, Gaston, Forest Grove. So that is what to expect. 3 sessions.
That's how and Mike, actually for our families, that's usually how I communicate, you know, like 4 days, like you said, earlier, like sounds like a lot. I usually describe it as actually, and maybe I'm underselling it, but I think I make it again more doable of the, like, it's 2 days of activities, bookended by the check-in and the check-out.
Yeah, and it helps them to put all those activities in those 2 days by having you.
But they are long days,
right? Yeah, they are absolutely, but it's chock full. And I guarantee you, by the end of that second day of program, your scouts are going to be exhausted, probably, right? I caught them on a beverage, and I just remember that from when I took scouts to Butte Creek, that by the end of that second day they are bushed, and that's a good thing. Again, sessions, that last one had a lot of Cub Scouts in it. If you want to go to the July 8th through 11th, you might call down to the volunteer services desk, talk to Deanne, and see how many slots they have available before you put in a reservation, if you don't have one already. And there's a link here for that points you at all the camp reservations for base camp at Baldwin. That link down there. Hopefully that's right. A map. Notice that Baldwin is essentially encircled in a road. Having said that, it is possible to get lost. I'll attest to this humbly. Take maps with you, please, just in case you get turned around and don't know where you are. I find it easier to get lost at Baldwin. I don't know why it is. It just is. Lots of great things to see here. Again, there's a link to Google to tell you how to get there, and the 4-day session cost is the same as Butte Creek. So that's my Baldwin pitch. Any questions on Baldwin or comments quickly before I move on to tips and tricks for how to survive? Everybody good? Okay. First and foremost, every camp has an adult leader award. This is above and beyond the nap safely, actually. I know there's one for Baldwin. I think there's still one for Butte Creek. And it's essentially an award that is designed to recognize adults, not just adult leaders, but adults who make the most of their camp experience. Anybody who is not a registered Cub Scout usually can earn this. Adult, parent, grandpa, registered leader, I don't care. If you're there and you stay, you can earn the leader award. And they're different for every camp. And they're going to have a whole list. Basically earn a certain number of points by doing a certain number of different things in different categories. And it'll be published. It's different every year a little bit. So wait until the leader guide comes out to get there. Some pro tips from me. I've done this 3 times. Okay. Go to camp, stay the full session. Don't go home and come back. You're going to miss out on stuff. Help the scouts out in their activities. At least be there. Offer to help. Be present. You can go take a nap. Sure. No problem. But make sure you're around and not just telling your scouts to go off, find a buddy and do a thing. Classic from Cub World. Oh my gosh. You had to not only meet the staff, but cajole something out of them. And I don't know if this is the case at camps these days, but sometimes you had to really work to get to know the staff and learn something or answer a question or find out their favorite flavor of ice cream, whatever it is. And it can be kind of fun depending on the staffer, to be honest. And most importantly, participate in the programs. Right? We were just talking about how there is at the end of the day 2 is a camp-wide relay race. Participate, cheer your scouts on, be a part of that. However it is that you can be a part of that, join in. Don't just go to camp and take a nap at the end of the day. Be there for the program and look out for those things. I want to talk to the packing list really quickly. Some summary items from my brain is everybody needs a sleeping bag, a pad, and a pillow, period. Toiletries, change of clothes, your 6 essentials, or if you're an adult, bring your 10 essentials, for crying out loud, right? Or if your Cub Scout has a whittling chip, now it's 7 essentials, right? They should bring those things. Bring the uniform. Neckerchief and slide stay at home. The only thing they do is get lost. I'll say it again. Neckerchief, slide, home. Don't bring it. For the group, every group needs to bring medical forms for every single participant who's in camp and stays. If it's under 72 hours, which I believe is both of these, parts A and B will do. You don't need part C. If for some reason you're in camp for more than 72 hours at a stretch, you'll need that part C. That requires a doctor, blah, blah, blah. Don't worry about it. For me, when I go to camp, I always print off the pertinent parts of the leader guide that I think are going to be helpful. The map, I just told you, don't get lost. The leader guide, the schedule, maybe the menu, what to expect, those kind of things, right? I also create multiple versions of my group roster, because the first thing the camp staff is going to ask you is, give me your official roster. And then I don't have a list. So I actually create my own when I did this with Cub Scouts that included every youth, every adult. And then if a youth wasn't accompanied by an adult, parent, grandparent, guardian, I don't care, I have their contact information. So when we're on our way home, I can text grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, hey, we're 30 minutes out. We'll be there, whatever. Do what you need so you know who's there, that they have arrived, that they have done the things, all that stuff. Rosters are important. This is a capture of CPC's packing list from years past. I'm not going to go over it. Look for something like this in leader guides. Tips and tricks from me to you. Rosters, bring them. See, that's why multiple times I'm going to tell you. 5-gallon bucket is a trick I was taught back in 2018. Here's how it goes. Okay, especially true for Butte Creek, maybe also for base camp at Baldwin. You get a 5-gallon bucket with a lid, right? And what happens at Butte Creek, go back to the schedule. Ooh, sorry, where's the schedule? Here it is. Morning of day 2, you wake up, your scouts have a t-shirt on, they put a uniform on, they go to morning flag when they're expected to have their uniform, salute, all that stuff. Then they do mail call. We'll talk about mail in a second. And then they are usually released by Homestead to go wash their hands, line up and wash their hands, and then line up to go into the dining hall. What happens when a Cub Scout has pancakes and syrup and they got their uniform on? Oh, there's so much syrup. Oh my gosh. And then you have a dust monster for the rest of the weekend. No, what you do is you park yourself with your 5-gallon bucket right before the wash station, and you have all the Cub Scouts take off their uniform. Now they're wearing their t-shirt, and you put their blue or tan uniform in the 5-gallon bucket. They wash their hands, they go and they get dinner, and then they get their syrup all over their t-shirt, which they've got extra because they brought extra clothing, right? Not a big deal. And then in the evening, when you're all lined up for flag, you pop the bucket open, everybody gets their t-shirt, have them write their name on the back collar, right? And you get your t-shirt, you get your scout shirt, everyone's there for the flag, everyone's there in uniform for the mail, and then you take it back off them and put it back in the bucket when they're washing their hands. Scout shirts stay cleaner. Then here's the real pro tip. You put a cushion on top of that 5-gallon bucket, and you have a chair built in that you take with you wherever you go. That is the pro tip, and I saw it work. I've never done it myself. Oops, sorry. There it is. I've never done it myself. I always use my backpack and had like a little camp chair, but I love this idea. It's easy. And it helps keep those uniforms clean and the syrup off the uniform, basically. Butte Creek has mail. It's a Pony Express. Coolest thing your scouts are going to see all weekend, I swear to you. They ride in on horses with the mail at flag. It's cool. You want your scouts to receive mail at camp, but do not send mail through USPS. I guarantee you it probably won't get there on time. 50% of the time it gets there, it doesn't get there 100% of the time. Bring it with you to camp. If you've got mom or dad that can't go, have them write a little letter, have them create a little care package box, bring it with you. And the leader guide will have a description of how you write, Billy Cub Scout, pack 1, 2, 3, 2 of Hearts campsite. And then what you do is you tell them, okay, I want Billy Cub Scout to get his package or his letter or his stuff to you or whatever it is on the evening of day 2, right before dinner. And they have bins where they sort all the mail, literally by the time. They do mail morning and evening, day 2 and day 3. So those full program days. I don't think they do it the day you arrive or the day you depart. I don't think. Here's the thing. Your scouts will be asked to participate as waiters in the dining hall for every meal. You'll be given a certain number of tables for, depending on how many scouts you bring with you, and adults. And it's usually 2 Cub Scouts per table and 1 adult. Be careful about how you assign. I always created a waiter rotation of rosters for our scouts. So everyone participated, right? You get breakfast, you get lunch, you get dinner, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and everyone participates, right? So like a rotation. Be careful about scouts not being at mail call for when their mail arrives. Think carefully about that as you go in, right? Oh yeah, Tommy's going to get mail on the morning of day 3. I can't have him be the waiter for breakfast that day because they miss flag, they miss mail. So it's just one of those things of balancing that, right? And if you have questions about that, let me know. I can expound on that more. Yes, mail does get lost, as Stephanie says, and it is very sad. And I've had that happen more often than not. Evaporation and cooling clothes. Yes, absolutely. Cool stuff. Bring it with you to camp. It doesn't have to have postage on it, and they will give it to the scouts right then and there, and then you save on postage. Do the early morning livestock feeding. Usually it's definitely the horses 6 in the morning. I think you may have seen it on the schedule. It is cool. Your scouts will remember it. They also tend to allow the barn, depending on what the livestock is there, and to come in and help feed the livestock in the barn. The horses is the cool thing. I would say do the horses on day 1 of the morning of day, or sorry, that first program day, which is day 2. And if you have time, second day, you've done that, everyone did it, then go to the barn on that second program day, day 3. Mentioning extra gear. When I go with a group of people, I usually throw in an extra tent, sleeping bag, pad, pillow, and maybe an extra jacket. If you're going with a large group, get your adults together and just start asking the question, who has some extra tents? Who has an extra sleeping bag? Just put it in the car if you've got space and leave it there. You might need it, you might not. If you need it, you've got it. If you need it and you don't have it, then you're in trouble. That's all. I would say don't go out and buy a bunch of stuff just in case. If you happen to have it, bring it with you and the space. For both of these camps, do not expect to have cellular reception. When you drive in, I want to encourage you to put your phone in airplane mode and relax. Your phone becomes a camera. Unless you need to communicate with home or whatever, pull yourself away and go and do that. But at Butte, it is a dead zone. There is basically no cellular reception at Butte. They do happen to have Wi-Fi. I'm not going to get into how you do that. But take the time to relax, ease yourself into the fact that this is a scout camp and you're going to have fun with your Cub Scouts for a couple of days, and you don't need to be on. My wife knows when I'm at camp, I am off. I'll check in with her at the end of the day, say goodnight. Otherwise, I am present, I'm enjoying it, and I'm just doing the thing. I encourage you to do the same if you can. There's a payment schedule. $10 deposit today will secure your reservation. If you have 14 scouts that you know, Cub Scouts that you know want to go to Butte Creek or base camp at Baldwin, I would recommend actually padding that a little bit. Maybe make a reservation for 16 or 18, because you might get a couple new Cub Scouts in spring recruitment. And one of the best ways for spring recruitment to work is to say, hey, welcome to the pack. We've got space for you at summer camp. Here are the dates. Does that work? If for whatever reason you don't get a lot of scouts, you can't fill, or a couple of scouts can't go, it's really easy to reduce your numbers because cancellations are transferable within your reservation. The payments you've made will slosh over. It's okay. It's often a lot harder to expand your reservation. So do a little extra. It's not a big deal. Not a ton. Don't take up the entire camp, but it's okay to throw in a few extra slots just in case. May 1st, they want an additional $90 for a total of $100 to continue reserving those slots. If you don't make that payment, you do risk losing your reservation. They can't kick you if somebody else comes along and is willing to pay.
Mike, we had some questions about this in our committee meeting, because the Scouts BSA camp, that commitment payment is earlier. Like,
this
we're
is what I
collecting
understand for the Cub Scout. I didn't see anything specific about Scouts BSA schedule. It might be different.
because I think they're March 1st. So we're like
in the final
Interesting.
throes of gathering. So,
Yeah, I wouldn't be
people in both
surprised.
units were getting confused about,
Yeah.
like, do we
Yeah,
need to send them
Jennifer
marching orders?
says the schedules are different, and I believe
Okay,
it.
there you go.
And part of that is
Great.
that typically the Scouts BSA summer camps fill up faster, and they need to make sure those are locked down, those slots. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
if you're fully paid by June 1st, you get an early bird rewards. It's not t-shirts anymore. It's a credit at the trading post for things. However, if you use that and you get all of your scouts a camp t-shirt, I want to recommend that at the very end of, the very beginning of your departure day, especially for those scouts that don't have an accompanying adult, throw that fresh camp t-shirt on. They go home in a fresh t-shirt. They look, never mind the grubby faces and all that stuff. That's what we used to do a lot. Slots open up. Yes, sometimes slots do open up, Joe. It does happen. And that's why I would call down to the volunteer services desk and let them know that you're interested in expanding your reservation. But again, it's easier to start with a larger reservation than you need, and then back off if you must. Full payment is due 2 weeks prior to camp. Full stop. You got to have it in 2 weeks prior. If payment, the cost is an issue, there are camp scholarships available from council. There's a link here at the bottom. It's need-based. So your family needs to fill it out. It's going to be based on income and how many scouts they have, and if they've participated in council-sponsored fundraisers like Popcorn and Snack Attack. It never hurts to submit a campership if there's a need. Please don't hesitate. So that's that. As a summary, these are being emphasized by our council. We don't have day camps anymore in our council, and it's for a good reason. We're trying to build an on-ramp to the Scouts BSA camps. And what we don't want is for a Cub Scout to join a troop and get freaked out the first time in their tent because, oh my God, there's a mosquito and they're going to die. That's not what we're looking for. We want to toughen them up a little bit, just a little bit, gently, kindly. We have got 2 excellent resident camps. They're all age-appropriate activities. They're fantastic programs. And again, it's that progression of camps from Butte to Baldwin, that next step. And then finally you end up at a Scouts BSA camp and you're all the way there. Hopefully, as I've mentioned a number of times, leader guides should be available around May 1st. I know Jennifer Ramirez is committed to trying her best to do that for Butte Creek. I'm not sure about Baldwin, but keep an eye open for that. My call to action is just get your scouts to camp. It's going to build memories. They're going to last a lifetime. I can attest to this. And the big thing, your Cub Scouts that attend summer camp will come back raring to go, jazzed about the scouting program, and they'll be more enthusiastic and excited about continuing Cub Scouting. And that will help you with retention. That's what this is all about. And giving them those memories and having an awesome time at summer camp. A few people that you can talk to if you have questions. Jennifer Ramirez is the camp director at Butte Creek. If you drop my name and say Mike told me to call you, that's cool. We're friends. I love Jennifer. She's awesome. Nope, that is Jennifer's cell number. I think her work cell number, actually. That is probably Joe, the number that you have is probably her desk number, and she may or may not answer that because she lives in Albany, so she's down there quite a bit. Ben Marshall is the camp director at Camp Baldwin. I don't have a phone number for him, but I do have his email address here, and so that would be the way to go. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Few resources, Butte Creek, Clark. This is where all the information lives. Please keep an eye out for new things there. So as I always say, they tell you what they're going to tell you. Then they tell you, then we tell you what we told you. So here's what we did today. The National Summertime Award. Do it. It's awesome. It's easy. Hike of the month, Tryon Creek. Pete sang us a song, and then we talked about summer camps. I want to present really quickly the actually I already did this before, didn't I? The schedule for Cub Scout breakouts. Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and skip that because everyone saw that at the opening. There is a schedule for Cub Scout breakouts and Scouts BSA breakouts here at Roundtable. If you need that more, let me know. If you need a copy, that should be all good. And that basically wraps up my presentation. Again, I have gone long in my grand tradition of things. Does anybody have any questions or comments or concerns?
So the last phone number that you showed there, Would that be the one?
Sorry, let me go back. Let's see. Yeah.
It was,
So in reality, both of the phone numbers that are listed for all of the
Yeah.
anybody who isn't working in the office, it's connected to their cell phone. So
when
if
you
the,
say
num-
call
the number
volunteer
on
services, like who is that?
sorry, volunteer services.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I missed that.
that's Deanne down at the services desk. So you're going to get Deanna, or who else is working the desk, Pete?
Deidre or Michelle.
Deidre. Yeah. So they can help you too. And that's a great resource to go say, hey, how many slots are available at Butte Creek during this session? Or can I sneak another extra scout in the session that I've already got a reservation in?
Yeah.
All kinds of questions like that.
And is that just the member service center number?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, cool. Sorry,
Yep. No, it's all good. It's all
I'm
good.
like looking for volunteer services. I'm like, I don't find that.
Yep.
Anyway.
For
That's
those
the
of
one.
you that don't know the phone number, it's 503-225-5759.
Oh,
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate it. That's a good one to have stored in your phone. Let's see, Jennifer, Camp Clark will everybody use. So I don't know about Camp Clark being used as a summer camp. I certainly hope that it'll come back, Jennifer. I really enjoy Camp Clark as a summer camp. I know this is being used for other things during the summer, and so it may come back. It may come back in a limited fashion. It's not coming back this summer as summer camp. So we'll see. I certainly hope so. But I don't have any insider information. Pete, do you have any inside information to share with us? Probably not, I'm guessing.
I am actually, I mean, I'm not even on the camping team right
Yeah.
now. So no, not really.
Yeah, we hope so. Camp Clark's beautiful. It's a great camp, and we'd love to use it more. There are super weekends for Cub Scouts at Camp Clark. So
I will
take
say the
advantage of
number
those.
one way you can guarantee that Camp Clark will open again is by recruiting a bunch of Cub Scouts so that we need more space at our camps.
Yeah, because Baldwin can only hold so many sessions for those older scouts, right, Pete?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So if we have lots and lots of scouts, they're going to have to open up Camp Clark, because that was traditionally
Exactly.
the Webelos Arrow of Light month, a camp for them. Yeah, and you can definitely do pack family camping, and it's usually during the off season at Camp Clark. You gotta weave your way through often they'll have weddings there for.
I was gonna say you can also get
reservations.
married there.
You can also get married there. There's all kinds of things going on at Camp Clark. So yeah, May is a great time to do that. And you know, Butte Creek you can do also. You can do pack camping at Butte Creek.
And if you hit
So,
your camp for all goal, it's free in the off season.
Exactly. So get Baloo trained, meet your camp for all go, and just go camping every month.
All the time.
It's great.
Yeah.
Any other questions, concerns? Did I miss anything in the chat? I think Tony's got the number for us. Yeah. All right.
I don't see any open questions.
Thank you, Tony. All right. So I'm going to stick around if there are any questions, concerns, anybody wants to kibitz for a little while, I'll be here. But beyond that, thank you very much for being here, for being part of our conversation. I'm going to stop the recording so you can go ahead and let loose with your real comments.